Call meeting to order. Shelley, can you roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. District 1, Councilman Rios is en route. District 2, Councilman Pastor.
Here.
District 3, Councilman Leatham.
Present.
District 4, Vice Mayor Stapleton.
Here.
District 5, Councilman Gonzalez.
Here.
District 6, Councilman Shipley.
Here.
Mayor Gameros.
Here.
District 1, Councilman Rios.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Shelley. Fernando, can you lead us in the invocation?
Yeah. So the invocation does not have to be a prayer. Traditionally, we do a prayer. So today I thought I would share a poem by Charles Swindoll, and it's called Attitude, and it's one of my favorites. One of the reasons that I wanted to pick this is because, especially with social media, it's really easy for people to throw stones at each other because you're not face to face. You don't live with the consequences, and I just feel like this poem actually says something about how we treat each other and how we perceive ourselves. So let me get this. Hold on a second. It's called Attitude by Charles Swindoll. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude, to me, is more important than facts. It's more important than the past, than education and money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think, say, or do. It's more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing that we can do is play the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes.
Thank you, Fernando. Freddie, can you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with summary of current events. We'll start, Mariano, you have anything?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I've been to a number of great things here in Globe, Miami in the last 3 weeks. But I need to say something about children. I was notified a couple weeks ago that there was a child who had no shoes and had blisters on his feet right here in Globe, Miami. Now, a certain club got together, well, actually one member got together and got shoes for that child. And then I heard some more stories about this particular situation, and the father was out of a job, the family was struggling, and I was shocked. To have that happen in this community really shocked me. So I recently had a birthday on Saturday. I turned 70. So I implore all of you, as a gift to me and to yourselves, look around you. There are people starving in this community. They need health care. The children need help. So if you think you're well off and doing well, think again and help somebody out there, especially the children. And I was about to reach into my wallet to help that particular child, and that day someone else had stepped up and taken care of that child and bought him 3 pairs of shoes. So if you think life is good in Globe, think again. Step up and volunteer. The food bank, the poor, Tim Gonzalez helping the people out there who need it the most. And step up and help. And that's the gift I would like to give in having a birthday reaching 70 years old. There's still a lot to be done out there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So don't forget that there are always people in need. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariano. Fernando?
I have nothing to report, Mayor.
Ready?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything either. Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, our street staff and our public works employees, those guys are busting butt out there in this kind of heat and weather, and I just want to give them another thumbs up, John. They're doing a good job out there, painting all the stripes on the handicap part and the red zones and stuff. They're, they're a good bunch of guys. I'm really proud to see them out there, and I always try and stop and tell them thanks for making us look good.
Thank you, Mike. Jesse?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple updates. As some of you are aware, I was placed on the chamber board as a bed tax, their bed tax recipient, as that the mayor and council has appointed us into the bed tax organizations. So with that, I must have missed a meeting or two, and I became the president of the Chamber of Commerce. So a couple things there.
Congratulations.
The chamber's got new signage up. I want to thank all the funders and partnerships that happened to get that new signage up. It's been down for so long. The LED sign got replaced today, finished, and the sign above it's finished. For a long time, there's been a award ceremony, and it really wasn't an award ceremony. It's called the Camaraderie, and it was one of the biggest fundraisers. The board has then now redubbed that to the Copper Globe Awards, where we're giving out awards now for Small Business of the Year, Large Business of the Year, Entrepreneurs of the Year, Citizen of the Year, and Customer Service Excellence of the Year. That's going to be June 20th at the casino. You can buy your tickets there at the Chamber of Commerce. There's a new website also going to be up, and hopefully up by August for the Chamber of Commerce, that will have a job board, job listings, and just really a community calendar of event, and just moving the chamber forward. Switching gears, I want to thank staff for the amazing fitness zone that you guys have put up with our partnership. It looks amazing out there. You guys did great. I want to thank everybody that was involved, and I want to thank all staff for everything you guys do. You continually to impress myself and constituents within the community for everything that you guys do. The respect you have for the community, it shows. So I appreciate it. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Mike?
Yeah, Mayor, thank you. I just want to share a letter that I received from Sherry Rice, and she's affiliated with the Friends of the Library. She said, on behalf of the Globe City Council and the Globe Public Library, I'm writing to thank you and the Friends of the Globe Public Library membership for your donation of the shade pavilion that they put up, which was built next to the library. I understand the pavilion has currently provided much needed shade for the library's summer reading programs and being enjoyed by both children and adults alike. I have also been informed that the free breakfast and lunches provided by the Federal Sun Meals, which I want to emphasize, the free meals for the kids during the summer, both breakfast and lunch program, are being served there under the pavilion. We acknowledged the portable fan mister recently that they got over there too. It was purchased, which is especially enjoyed during these sweltering summer months in Globe. Again, thank you, and the Friends of the Globe Public Library for your generous donations. Sincerely, Sherry. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. I have a couple of things. First, I would just want to acknowledge, Tina, I'm going to put your husband on the spot. We have John Allen in the audience, who's a Maricopa County Treasurer current, and also a past legislator in our state. And so thank you for being here. On Thursday, on the 12th, inviting everybody, you should go. APS has their town hall in Bullion Plaza at the gym, and this is to explain this PSPS, and that's Public Safety Power Shutoff, so you understand their mitigation plan. If it does line up, they could shut the power off in our community. So it's important that you go ask questions to APS. There's maps out there that show not every area in Globe Miami is going to be affected. There's certain areas. So it's important to know that you're maybe in that area or not. So it's Thursday, 6 o'clock, Bullion Plaza at the gym. APS will have all their staff there so they can answer questions for any of the residents. And the other thing is, on the 18th is the next Coffee with the Mayor, and that'll be at 1 o'clock at Copper Cities Coffee. Invite you to come out and ask questions, try and get you whatever information you're after. It's been great. The first couple of months been growing. A lot of people there have come to to ask questions. So on the 18th, next Thursday, 1 o'clock, next Wednesday, 1 o'clock at Copper Cities Coffee. That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, My only comment, I'm just real excited about bringing forward, presenting the tentative budget for FY '26 tonight. Your staff has worked very hard on it. The director's been involved since the very beginning. We've probably had over a dozen meetings and about 8 various presentations to all in parts of council. Everybody's pulled together to get a tight document that achieves a lot of goals. So that is real exciting for, I think, the city and for the community and for myself and my team.
Great.
And that's all, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Great.
Members of council.
So we have our first community call to the public. Do we have anybody online or on email? I have no cards up here.
Nothing on text, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
And let me. See how fast it'll load. No, not fast at all. Let me, I don't see anybody right now, but let me double check.
Okay.
But if we miss them, we'll get them on the backside.
Okay. So we'll move on to special presentations, and we have one. We have a proclamation honoring the life of Honorable Douglas L. Reyes, and we have Elaine Stone that is here to accept that proclamation. So I will read it. It's honoring the life of Honorable Douglas L. Reyes. Whereas Douglas L. Reyes is a native of Globe, Miami, with deep family roots in the community. He is the son of Nick Reyes, a well-known local businessman who helped run Wilson Paint and Supply in Miami, the nephew of Louis Reyes, former mayor of Globe, and the nephew of Jane Dries, a strong influence in his life and owner of Wilson Paint and Supply. He is also the grandson of Saad and Rose Reyes, Lebanese immigrants who founded the Eagle Market in 1917, which became a cornerstone of Globe residents through the Depression and beyond. Whereas Doug Reyes graduated from Globe High School in 1970, where he played baseball and joined the school's first wrestling team. He later attended Arizona State University, earned a degree in engineering with honors, and was commissioned as a second lieutenant through the Army ROTC program. Whereas he has earned his law degree from ASU in 1978, graduating with honors, and joined the U.S. Army Judge Advocate General's Corps, serving in Germany as both a prosecutor and a defense attorney. Whereas upon returning to Arizona, he practiced law for 18 years, representing clients in personal injury, medical malpractice, and class action cases on behalf of law enforcement officers. Whereas in 2000, he was appointed to the Maricopa County Superior Court, where he served in multiple departments, trained new judges, and taught law students. Whereas he created one of Arizona's first veteran courts and expanded services for homeless veterans. Whereas in 2014, President Obama, at Senator John McCain's recommendation, nominated him to the U.S. District Court, where he was confirmed and served with distinction. Whereas in 2024, he assumed senior status and continued to serve on the federal bench. In witness whereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal City Globe to be affixed this 10th day of June 2025. And Elaine, if you have a few words to say, and then I'll give you the proclamation? Okay. You want to come up to the podium here?
Good evening. My name is Elaine Reyes Stone, and Doug Reyes is my cousin. He asked me to represent him and the family tonight. As he cannot be here because of a prior out-of-state commitment, he's sitting on the Ninth Circuit in San Francisco. Doug and our entire family are thrilled and honored by this recognition. Our family roots are in Globe. Globe has been an important influence on all of us. Doug attributes whatever successes he has had to growing up in Globe. On behalf of my cousin and our entire family, thank you so much. This is such a unique and prestigious recognition. It means so much to Doug and our family. You guys have made my dad my dad was made man of the century, and now you are honoring Doug. It's pretty awesome. Thank you.
And they'll be on, is this going to be on the 4th of July also, sir?
We're 4th of July, the 3rd is the night of the dinner. And if you buy your tickets this week, it's only $35 a person instead of $50 a person. And July 4th in the morning at 7:30, he's doing the parade in Miami. And then at 1 o'clock, we want to invite all of you to our house. Jesse knows where it's at. It's at the corner of Klein and East. And my husband and I are doing a barbecue for everybody. And Doug and our whole family will be there, and a lot of people from the city, DeRosa's and all that will be there.
Great.
And we'd love to have everybody come to honor Doug. Anyway, thank you. And Jesse, if you tear down that bulletin board with my dad's bronze in it,
Which one?
I'm gonna be really mad.
Where?
It's in the chamber.
Oh, nothing's being torn down.
Sorry, I've got the proclamations.
That's July 3rd.
July 3rd is an event, and
Open it up.
July 4th is gonna be our,
Oh.
July 4th at the parade, and then later at her house for the, whatever it is, barbecue.
Okay, we have a consent calendar. Matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing for separate consideration. Members of the council and/or staff may also remove any item for separate consideration. Item A, consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A, prior discussion rule, to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. Accounts payable, $734,384.76. Consideration of approval of council minutes, May 28th, 2025, meeting minutes. And item B is consideration of possible approval of change order number 1 to contract number CS 2025-0140 with EarthQuest for the Bailey Sewer Common Line Project in the amount of $5,714.80 to be funded from account 5480-52100, 2021 WIFA grant expenditures with possible reimbursement from WIFA. Do we have anybody from the public, the staff, or council wishing to remove any of these items for separate consideration?
Mayor, I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda as read. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion passed. So item 5 is fiscal year 25-26 budget. Item A is presentation, discussion, and possible direction regarding the fiscal year 25-26 water, wastewater, Gila County road tax, and highway user revenue fund HERF budgets, including revenue projections, contingency funds, and capital improvement projects, CIP. And Linda will be presenting.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. It's good to see you all here at the same time. Big night tonight. We've done a lot of work over the past 3-4 months. I think we've put Tina through the gauntlet.
That's me. Sorry.
Okay, so our presentation tonight is on the fiscal year 26 enterprise budget, which is water, wastewater, half-cent excise, HERF, and bridge. So we tie this into our strategic plan, our strategic action plan priorities that were identified and reinforced by council at our strategic action plan retreat in February. Might have been March, time flies. And that includes improve and expand aging infrastructure to better serve current residents and businesses, and also to accommodate future development. To continue the Common Line program to address these issues that we have in our 100-plus-year-old neighborhoods, and they come up sometimes as a surprise. To complete the upgrade for A+ effluent with a development agreement with our community partner. To continue to support city departments, capacity building, and succession planning. And lastly, to continue to improve the quality of life for our residents through sidewalk and road improvements. So goals of the enterprise budget. The enterprise budget is a financial plan for operations that are expected, we hope, to be self-sustaining through user fees and service changes. And over the past year, we've done rate studies, we've updated our fee schedule in order to do this. So more enterprise budget goals, of course, self-sufficiency, cost transparency, and you'll see more messaging on this through our social media and our public relations, communications with the public and our stakeholders, sustainable infrastructure management, performance monitoring and accountability, holding us all accountable for the work that we say that we're going to do and plan for, because we don't want those studies to sit up on a shelf and get dusty. We want to put them to action. And capital planning and investment. First up is water. Our revenue this year, and this is kind of an overview of it, and Tina will get more into the detail of this. And so if you do have questions, please feel free to ask, stop me at any time. Our revenue, our anticipated revenue, projected revenue is $6,310,766. Our metered water sales have increased 10%, and that accounts for 75% of our budget. We're being conservative with this, given that the anticipated development has not come to fruition quite yet. It's on pause, though it's still moving forward just a little more slowly than we had anticipated. And the water rate model that was developed, that was based on that development. And of course, we have the budgeted Army Corps 595 project, and that is waiting on the environmental assessment. And we will be talking about the potential match options for that in just a little bit. Our reserves, they're built-in reserves in case we do have a PFAS mitigation project that we may have to address if needed. Better to prepare. Our operating budget, of course, has $2,797,538. This includes and covers salaries and uniforms, our debt service, and our maintenance. Carry forward this year is $2,304,703. That includes our operational contingency, the well pump repair reserve that we've started, and the securing future water, which includes the match for the water conservation grant. And our grants are $3,335,000. That is the Army Corps 595 and the water conservation continuation. It's a great picture. Did you take that? Vince did.
Go ahead, Fernando.
Yeah, just on your last page there, you have, the grants. Because some of the money has been frozen from the federal government, but did this money get transferred already, so therefore we're not in jeopardy of not getting it, or what do we know on that?
On the Army Corps funding?
Mhm.
So that funding has not been frozen.
Okay.
That is waiting for us to move forward on our project with the Apache Underground Company. And so we have until December 31st. We have a contract in place with them right now, and it hinges to begin the project. We're waiting on the environmental assessment that is going to be taking a little longer than anticipated because there's more outreach to our neighboring tribal nation that needs to be done in order for that to move forward. Sure, thank you. Wastewater. Our projected revenue is $1,562,799. This is an 8% increase, and again, we're being conservative given that the development delay has happened. Our contingency, is $312,560. Operating budget, $1,562,799. And our carry forward, this is $2,811,848, and this is a variance to the fiscal year 23 audit. $1,631,788 is on hold for further audit results. We're playing it safe. And CIP highlights. John, I think you should come cover these. These are exciting.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So just as you all know, we've come to prior to council for the approval to order the jetter truck. So that is still in hold, but it's actually will be in production in September, August. So we're still probably almost a year out, depending on how fast they can produce that. So that's one of the main contributors to, you know, the sewer plant and our response and, you know, our team efforts as far as, you know, supporting the city. And then also, we have the 170 in Project Reserve. That's actually for additional unforeseen things that we may have coming up. We don't have anything specific, but we know that there may be some issues that may arise. But the last but not least is the dump truck and additional truck. As we all know, we'll talk probably further down the road as far as fleet maintenance and repair and replacement. This is actually part of that. You saw on the water side of it, there was actually a truck as well. So we're actually splitting that cost between water and wastewater for our enterprise funds.
Thank you, John. As John hinted to, he and his staff have been working with John Trujillo on a 7-year fleet plan. And so these are huge wins considering the findings of that, and we'll be bringing that back to council for a future presentation. Okay, half-cent excise. Buy your gas locally. This is really important. So our revenue forecasted is $725. Operating budget, of course, equals that, and this is used for lighting and street repairs. Our contingency is $200,000. Our capital outlay construction, $215,107, and that includes $60,000 match for ADOT's GTAP sidewalk grant. There's also $158,000 in the Jess Hayes sidewalk project built into there. Our CIP highlights. Do you want to talk?
Jesse, go ahead.
John.
I have a
Yes,
question.
sir.
This ADOT GTAP sidewalk grant, we have not yet received that grant, correct?
Travis.
The 1.1.
The TA grant.
Yeah, we just applied for that, so
When will you anticipate knowing?
sometime around the fall.
Okay, so if we don't get that and we have the 60,000 match in there, we would just use that 60,000 then for sidewalks?
We could.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Leatham, the budget has a lot of different parts baked in that we can pivot on funding requests. We have a capital fund project from half cent, from HERF, and from not too much from general fund, that we can pick these projects and get them forward. What we hope to do is bring forward in either 2 weeks or 4 weeks specific plans on 4 topics, or maybe even 5. Plans in the future, multi-year for asphalt, plans for sidewalks, plans for public works fleet, plans for common line, and plans for PD fleet. Okay. And we can, based on that, start this year on what projects council wants to prioritize, locations, where we're going. We've gotten away from funding these from what we put into the budget with our limited funds, but we have made great strides in finding money, grants, WIFA, ADOT grants to fund these projects. But when you're funding them with grant money, they tend to go for the big bang projects, sure, the projects with the greatest good. But I think this council wants a little bit more than that. They want to do a little bit of both. The greatest good, but then we got problems everywhere. And so I think with these presentations we have planned for either, depending on how quickly we can get them put together, no later than July 4th, passage of the final budget, we can show you and get direction on these plans. Plus, it gives the staff a chance to say, hey, this is the long-range thinking. Before, it seems like every time we put these budgets together, but these opportunities roll up, and so they all come out of these capital project line items. They come forward to council, and so I think if we go and get those projects that you want, then we can back the funding instead of, so let's go with the project and then track down the funding as opposed to having the funding and then track down the project.
Okay.
So Paul, it's just like, it's common practice that we have to budget in for the matches from the city, as we have been doing the last couple of budgets for anticipated grants that we may get. You know, I think, what would we anticipate, 20 million last year? We didn't get that many, but we anticipated within our budget, because we can't spend it if we don't account for it in our budget.
Well, and we, I mean, we have a grant process, and number one question, you know, can we apply for this? Where are we gonna get the grant funding? Okay, and Tina always reminds us that anyway. So, but the sidewalks, transportation grants are like 5.6, federal grants are about 25%. And so, we have capital reserves, not the contingency reserve, but capital reserves within Public Works, Water, and Sewer that we can pull grant money to. And we're also, as we go into this presentation, talk about how we're trying to find grant money internally rather than going to WIFA for, I'm sorry, match money internally rather than going to WIFA for match money. So we are absolutely aware of that the match is, you know, there is no free lunch, and there's a match is a match, and so we gotta find that. But John, I think John wanted to chime in.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I just wanted to add onto that is that, just like Paul says, we're going after a lot of these bigger ones. We're talking about the sidewalk from the Jess Hayes projects, or $1 million projects, but also in that process, when we're dealing with residential constituent, you know, concerns, safety issues. I had Vince put together a list just this morning. There was at least 20 different situations that we did repairs, and working with the local contractors and vendors, just the immediate for staff to work with these things is almost $80,000. So there's additional, like Paul says, if we're not using it in a match, we're actually still using funding to take care of these in between smaller projects. And they are, you know, they are concerning, there are safety issues. So we're still working those in as well.
COP highlight, John?
Oh, wow, big one.
He's gonna do his victory lap.
So as we talk about fleet repair and maintenance, like I said, we've been working with the vendor and looking to see what possibilities we may have. And of course, this highlight here would be they're not replacing our sweeper. We've talked about it for a few years and wanting to come forward. We're just getting kind of to that point where we're needing to replace that. The good thing is actually, you know, in some of the projects we've scaled back, we're able to have the funding available for this actually purchase. Just like with the jetter truck, at some point we have to get that thing, and we get that, and we're talking about, you know, future road projects. I know it's been brought up before, so, you know, we're gonna do the maintenance on the roads and the asphalt. We've got to maintain them, and a big part of this is this piece of equipment. This type of sweeper is actually what you see the county's utilizing and ADOT is utilizing. It's the same unit. It's just a non-CDL.
And John, the sweeper you're using right now, doesn't it, that's the one, the little orange one, that it actually takes more manpower to utilize that sweeper, because it doesn't pick it all up.
Yeah, so this unit here is actually just driven, you know, everybody knows I drove one for many years, the one that we currently have. So that's one person operating it, you know, and what we're utilizing now after storm cleanup is a broach style broom. It's really a kick out, so it doesn't pick it up. So that creates kind of a concern too, as far as dust and everything else. We do have water and everything, but when we're sending this truck out, we have to send 2 guys to shovel, a loader, and this broom. It actually just accumulates material. The loader pulls up, the guys shovel it in. It's not actually picking it up. So it's actually taking 4 guys to do what this unit will do.
I saw that. I witnessed it. Thank you, John.
Be smarter.
There we go. Our bridge fund, we have a bridge fund carry forward, Jess Hayes sidewalks is $3,232,342, and the Cottonwood Bridge being $558,753.
I got a question on the Cottonwood Bridge, only because I did get calls from constituents. Is that money is gonna be utilized to fix the front part of that area where the railroad is? They were complaining about the railroad and their vehicles driving over. So hopefully they're listening today, because I told them that, you know, that's coming forward on the budget.
Yes, Mayor, we've actually been working with the railroad. Actually, it's in legal right now. So the remaining funds that we had, that was allocated for the bridge, the remaining funds that we had, we found Louisa and staff had worked with the railroad company it would be replacing, that dollar amount actually we're looking to replace the crossing and then do the asphalt work to tie into Broad Street and actually add in some sidewalk. So it actually wraps around the going towards the train depot there. It'll tie that whole area in.
Question, what about that electrical wire that hangs across on the one side? It's pretty low. And they have a sign out there that says low wires, but
Yes, APS, I've contacted APS, they're in the process of looking to replace that. They just gotta go through their process, it's
Oh, no,
usually
that-
just not
that's
an
fine.
APS thing,
Yeah.
yeah, they actually will replace their line, but then all the other utilities gotta actually bring theirs up as well before they take the pole out.
good.
So they're in the process as well as doing that.
One more follow-up question. So the city's funding that project to repair that, but we're waiting on the railroad company to approve it, and are they doing the construction or we are?
So the city actually has to, what the railroad has a designated vendor or a team that actually replaces those. So they would be in control of that part. We're funding that, but it's actually from the funding from the ADOT, the funding that we got for the bridge. So it's actually not coming out of, it's just what we were awarded at the time. And it actually has to be specifically tied to the bridge. So rather than it kind of basically go back to the TOX, we're able to utilize that, and that's without all that's been confirmed. We're just doing the legal part, but the railroad will do the replacement, and after that, we'll actually upsize. There's a line there that actually goes from, we upsized the line when we did the bridge, and there's a sleeve there that goes under the railroad, so we're gonna work that into, so it's just tied into all the way across to the valves.
Great. And then just one more question to answer all her questions. The timeline, do we even anticipate a timeline on getting it?
I wouldn't have a timeline, and only because I'm not sure where the legal part of it fits in, and then that the scheduling and, so that'd have to be worked out with the railroad too, once we get to that point.
So, Mr.
Thank
Mayor,
you,
members
John.
of council, in response, the legal issue is just about liability. We've come to the railroad, we want to improve the area within their right of way. They don't want to take on any additional liability, but then we don't want to be responsible for that, and there's construction. So then you have a third-party contractor that is hired by the railroad, but we pay that third-party contractor, and they have liability requirements. And so it's this kind of triple negotiation as to how we make sure we have the right liability levels and it's compensated properly. And we had stalled a little bit of negotiations, but now they seem to be picking up steam. And once we get that going, then we go back to getting the agreements in place, sending them the money, then they schedule. So it will take a little time. John, as I recall, it's not on the railroad tracks, but it's in the right of way coming towards Broad Street, between the tracks and Broad Street. It was on both sides. It's on. Just on that side. Yeah. So it's just anytime, the federal requirements you have to have, when you're working in there, you got to have a third-party observer making sure it's safe. And so we just got to get those ducks lined up, and we seem to be making good progress. It's picked up speed.
Great, that answers the question, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. HERF, the Highway User Revenue Fund. Our forecasted revenue is $1,029,314. Our operating budget, $898,233, plus our contingency equals our revenue. Our contingency, being $131,081. And we have carry forward capital project reserve of $230,796. So this slide was to look different a week and a half ago. We thought we would be bringing to council tonight a request to apply for a WIFA loan fund, but after going through our budget, we have found that we have capacity built in that we can cover half the match for the Army Corps 595 project, the match being $700,000, and that's a two-phase project. And the well 4 replacement, that doesn't have to be done this year. We have about 3 years to plan for that, which we would rather use WIFA as a last resort, plan of last resort. So common line program, we're looking at Alpine Street and Evans Street, and that's the respective cost for each. $200,000 Alpine, $1 million for Evans. We are planning to do, hopefully to plan, a sewer master plan of $100,000 and a manhole assessment, which is $200,000. And we put the fun fact in there because we're like, why does that study cost so much? Well, it's the number of manholes that we do have. So, and Tina will go back. New clicker, sorry about that. I'm learning the buttons. So we'll kind of cover where we are finding our capacity to self-fund instead of going to WIFA.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, to cover this point, like say, I've been responsible for a lot of the whiplash on the WIFA. We look at WIFA, we held off last year because we're waiting for the results of our new fee increases just kicked in, and we still want to see where they are. We do need to get the 595 funded, and we were going to come forward with a WIFA request, but then we found we do have more money than we thought in water, and so like say we're holding the WIFA option last resort. It is our budget is built and available, could handle the WIFA loans, but we're not going to pull the trigger on it until we're absolutely sure there's no other alternative. And we'll see where the revenues come in, like say, because if we can fund it off our internal revenues, much better than, going out. Even though some is forgivable, still it's a loan and you got to pay back.
Mayor?
Fernando?
So I attended the WIFA board meeting today. And one of the things that they briefed us on was the federal funding, and EPA has basically been pretty much gutted. And a lot of our funding comes from the EPA, so it won't affect us this year, but they do anticipate it will affect us next year. So then we'll have to make a decision whether we're going to go out for bonding or what we're going to do. But with the tariffs and all these other things that are going on, it's kind of up in the air. People are really kind of reluctant to. So what we're talking about doing right now is having everything ready to go to bonding. Mm-hmm. That way, if the terms end up being favorable, we can act and strike. But right now, it looks this year we're good. So my caution on that is that if we're going to get approved for WIFA funding, it might be better to have it approved sooner than later.
Well, and no, that's good insight in inside baseball on that. Like I say, we are leaving our options open. What I didn't want to do is come in and have to parallel a WIFA loan at the same time of the budget. Now we can get the budget passed and then look at our revenue projections. And if need be, we could go as soon as this fall if we think that, just based on everything we see on the table. There are a lot of factors. Better to wait and see where the factors fall out. But that's one to put into the mix, is availability in the future.
This is a snapshot of our revenue projections. PERF, excise, our bridge fund revenue and balance. See, our revenues, of course, match our expenses. And stop me if you have questions or have a comment. Our water fund, that is our 25 budget is adopted versus our forecast, and our proposed budget being $8,615,469, and our total water fund expenses being the same. Our wastewater fund, as presented, our proposed budget, total revenues being $4,374,647. I should have brought my glasses. And that's the end of our enterprise fund presentation.
Linda, just a comment for anybody listening in, maybe on the internet. When we talk about budgeting, we talk about enterprise funds. This is revenue that is specific to certain categories. You can't spend it on. It's not a general fund. It's more for water, wastewater, and stuff like this, so people have an understanding of what enterprise funds are.
Restricted funds for those particular enterprises that generate that revenue, that it gets reinvested back into those activities.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good report.
Well, we have one slide. Wait. And then,
Because I was on the other one too. Oh, that's me. Okay, so item B is discussion and consideration to approve resolution 1905, adopting the council general fund contingency reserve policy. And Shelley, can you read resolution 1905, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 1905, a resolution of the City of Globe, County of Gila, State of Arizona, adopting the Council General Fund Contingency Reserve Policy 2025. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm going to present the policy itself, and I have Pat Walker online also if you have any additional questions about this. But we do have a single slide that pretty much covers the contingency policy. So a contingency fund is one that is protected. It cannot be spent. For it to, contingency money to be spent, it has to be moved to a spending account of some sort. This council has traditionally and recently asked that we start the budget process with the $3 million in the council contingency, which this budget does do. This policy lays out the guidelines on how it can be spent, how it can be used. The policy itself says that for the purpose of the $3 million, significant economic downturns, consequences of outside agency actions, emergencies such as natural disasters or catastrophic events caused by human activity, unforeseen opportunities allow the city to leverage reserves for long-term benefits. And so the 3 million, and then we've actually added a second contingency policy, which we are calling a capital contingency policy. It's a much smaller, $150,000 policy. This is money that we are more likely to and will go to first. Historically, with our $3 million contingency, we've spent between $100 and $300,000 over the past years. We don't go that deep into it, but I think council would feel more comfortable if we had a smaller contingency that we can look for the low-hanging fruit. And so that smaller one would be for opportunities or oversights. An opportunity, we found a property for $40,000 and we can grab that. Oversight, dang, we didn't include this or we didn't know about it in the budget. It's not a big deal, but we're not dipping into the council protected contingency. We're going into an administrative capital contingency. The grand total of your contingency is $3,150,000. That represents 2 months of operating revenue based on our general fund revenues that we pull in about between 19 and 21 million. And so you're meeting that GFOA match or recommended amount of money to have in there. If you have questions about that when we're done talking about this, I'll let Pat share with you, and you may have some questions for her. So we have these two different contingencies. They have the line item spec. Let's go back to my PowerPoint. So they're, like I say, in order to be spent, they have to be transferred, and then once they're into an account, a spending account, the budget, whatever we're spending on, has not been budgeted, so that absolutely has to come to council so we can expend the money. So you have two chances to oversee that and see that. The other piece of the puzzle is when we go to spend either of these, we will give you a tally of where we are, how much we started with, what we spent already, and where this puts us. So, we started with 150,000, we spent 20 on something. So we're at 130, you spend this next 30, we'll be at 100,000. And so that's clearly stated in the staff report. Any unspent money falls back into the fund balance, but let's say that something happened. Let's say that we needed to have 600,000, 900,000 for something that we didn't plan on. It may be a good thing, it may be a bad thing, but that's what you have, a contingency. It would probably be a very high magnitude thing that we would need that. The next year, if our unspent one-time funds didn't cover that 600,000, say, expenditure, we would pull 300,000 by the policy, 300,000 off the top from the general funds and place it back into the fund balance contingency. So or the council contingency to rebuild that. Let's say that it was $600,000 hole. I think if you pulled 600,000 out of general fund, it'd do some severe damage to the budget. And the chances are that there'll be enough money that falls back in that we can cover it anyway. But we're committing to 300,000 each year until it's back to where it should be. So the question is, what mechanism makes sure that if we spend it, it's gonna get filled back up? That 300,000 a year would be that mechanism. And so with that, I have questions, and if we can put Pat up so we can see Pat, if you have any questions for her.
Well, I think maybe Fernando had this question last time. The $3 million, you read a list of things that we can use it for, but does it also state in there for opportunities?
Yes.
Just like the 150, so we can utilize it in
Yes.
case something comes up that that's an opportunity we can pull from there also.
And we don't have to be so specific that we line out. This is the council's money. You have control over it, and it's not like that you found something didn't qualify for your own policy. This is your policy, and so if it's for what you determine. So I don't think you're gonna line yourself by passing this policy. You're not gonna forget and say, oh, we didn't cover that, and we can't spend it. Is that correct, Pat?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so you have full access to this money. How you determine it is how council votes on that.
Mr. Mayor, if I could comment.
Go ahead, Marion.
A long career in emergency management, dealing with reimbursement after a major disaster. I have seen instances where, and today's day is FEMA still exists. Tomorrow's another story. Read the newspapers. When you have a federal declaration come into the state, they will pay up to 100% of eligible expenses. And that's a really hard thing to stomach, because FEMA can throw out expenses that you present, saying that they are not eligible under their rules. And then you have to bite the bullet. And I've seen that happen at least once in my career in this county. That year, the Board of Supervisors had to levy a 2% tax to recover those expenses from a particular flood. So you have to remember why this reserve fund is being created. For the day that FEMA says, well, we'll give you this, but not all of it. And it's up to you to recover that. How are you going to recover? And that's a specific case scenario, and as of today, that's how the world is. So FEMA can throw out expenses that you submit and tell you that those aren't eligible. That's why we have this fund created, literally for that rainy day fund, and to recover the budget, and to avoid having to levy a tax to recoup that funding. At the end of the day, that's what this will help us do. We'll submit our expenses and see what shakes out that they say is not eligible. And I have been in that position. So that is very wise to have this funding available in any case. And it behooves us to pay attention to that. And I will say this, tomorrow's another day. There is talk of getting rid of FEMA. And I didn't like seeing that at 4 o'clock before I came into this meeting. The point is, it behooves us to be ready for that future. And if we have that bad day, we still can recover using the monies that we have put away. I don't know what the other cities and towns are doing about that. I do know that if we have this fund ready and available for any catastrophe, even if that scenario occurs, we can still recover. And I can sleep better at night. And as I said, tomorrow's another day. I don't know what the feds are gonna do about FEMA. I do know that today we are putting mechanisms in place that will basically tell the federal government, go do what you need to do, we're good. And that's exactly what I think as a council, we should be wise to look at that. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
And so, Mr. Mayor, unless there's any questions, Pat, did you want to comment on just the appropriateness of the size, the 3 million versus anything larger or smaller?
Sure. Mayor and members of the council, first off, I'd like to say I want to commend you on adopting this policy. This is one of the best practices that the Government Finance Officers Association, professional financial professionals are belong to, and this is one of their policies is that should be adopted by the council and look favorably upon on any borrowing that you would do in the future if you had any loans or anything. The Government Finance Officers Association recommend that you at least have 2 months worth of reserve of your operating expenditures, and this is a little bit over 2 months. So you're meeting the guidelines set forth by the Government Finance Officers Association, and this is again, as the council member explained, this is for any unexpected emergency expenditure that you may need to make or any transfer. It also is for any revenue shortfalls that you might face. And so that's why this contingency reserve is put into place. I think the capital reserve is a good idea because I know it's hard to touch that 3 million if you don't have to, unless it truly is something that you must do. And at least you've got an operating reserve that you can take from to do any capital type things that pop up during the course of the year. So I think both of these are very good policies to have in place. And again, I commend the council in adopting this. Makes the finance professional proud.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mike.
So has this been run by Bill? Has Bill,
The policy?
Yeah.
No, it's a council policy. I don't think I've shown it to Bill,
well, we
but
have
it's,
his name on here as signatory on it,
let me see.
on the right on
That would be
the resolution.
Bill has
Oh.
reviewed and approved the resolution.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Just curious, I just wanted to. Thank you. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I have a question.
Freddie, go ahead.
If I understand what you said correct, this is the minimum. Is there any fallacy in increasing more than the minimum? In a fund like this?
Paul, do you want me to take that or?
Yeah, no, go ahead, you start and I add some stuff, but go ahead, Pat.
Yes, the contingency policy is based on every community, and that's why GFOA won't tell you what the exact amount should be. It depends on your tax base, what revenue shortfalls you may face, the type of revenues you bring in, and then on the expenditure side. So they're not going to tell you exactly how many months to do, but they say it's a good policy to at least have 2 months. Some communities would be very, very happy to have what you have in place. And there is, by increasing it too much, you're taking away from other things that you could do in the budget. So there's a sweet spot that you need to find that makes you feel comfortable with how much you have in your reserve, but you don't want to tie up so much that you can't get some of the things done that you need to do in order to serve your citizens. So I think this is that sweet spot for the city of Globe. I think that based on history and how much you've used and everything, I think that by increasing it, again, I think you'd have to take somewhere else from your budget, and I'm not sure that that's what serves the best in the long run for the citizens.
So, thank you, Pat, and to the mayor, members of council, to Councilman Rios. And this is not, so if it's a water or a wastewater issue, we still have, future water supply money. We have fund balances and contingencies in there that would add to that. And so if there's a major, we should plan for major purchases in advance. We should plan for a well or a tank or a fire truck. in advance. And so those are the things that we need to do so that we don't have to go to the contingency. But as to Pat's point, at some point, if you put too much in contingency, you're gonna create emergencies because you're strapping down your general fund budget, and there's no way to do that planning ahead. A good balance would be to put money into the contingency, which we've done, but put it into buckets for future. You know, if you know you're gonna need something in 3 years, put a little more money so you can buy it in 3 years. We haven't gotten to that point yet where we're able to do that 5-year CIP plan where we tuck money away. That is our next step to bringing the city to the next level in professionalism in our budgeting process. But we're getting there. This is a very healthy budget, has a lot of, very conservative budget, has a lot of flexibility, elbow room. And I think, as Pat said, for us right now, this is a good sweet spot.
Good, thank you.
One other question, Paul, with the resolution, this also has a recovery for the 150,000 in capital annually, is that go with it too?
The
Or is
way
that just-
this is written is if there is a problem and we can't meet, it says up to 150,000. It allows council to say, hey, we need to, we're not ready, we may not want to put 150,000, we want to put 100,000. So that one is not rock solid, but the 3 million is rock solid.
Okay.
But I will tell you that we will do our best to get that 150, because it's good that we do that administrative capital rather than go into council. And as Mayor you so politely said, it's all council's money.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what the name is. Pat, did you want to add something?
No, I think you covered it really well there.
Okay, yeah.
And it is council, I mean, again, even, state statute requires that council approve any transfers from contingency reserve in budget statutes, so.
Yeah, talking to other mayors throughout, in the city, you know, when I go to meetings, there's cities out there that are twice or almost 3 times, and they had like $500,000 in the
Yeah.
contingency. And that's scary, $500,000 to a city that's twice our size or 3 times our size, so. This is healthy, it really is.
Oh, yeah.
Mayor, if there are no other questions or comments, I'd motion to approve resolution number 1905, adopting the 2025 Council General Fund Contingency Reserve Policy.
Second.
Motion is second for approval of resolution 1905. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed.
Pat, thank you. Are you going to hang around for the tentative budget adoption?
I would love to, but,
But no. But-
for issues, so I'm a little bit.
Okay, all right. Well,
Thanks, Pat.
Pat, thank you for zooming in.
Thank you.
We really do appreciate it, and thank you for your help with everything we do and with the budget and the oversight for keeping us on top of things. Thank you.
You're welcome, thanks.
Item C, consideration to approve the adoption of City of Globe fiscal year 2025-2026 tentative budget in the amount not to exceed $57,452,976, which includes $15 million in unfunded grant requests and direction to make possible adjustments within the budget and announce a public hearing date of July 8, 2025 for the purpose of the final budget and on July 29, 2025 for the adoption of the property levy tax. Paul and Tina.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm gonna start there. I think the first slide talks about manager comments. So I'm gonna start that, and then we'll kick it to Tina. Again, this budget solves many problems. We have the $3 million right off the top in the council contingency. We're able to once again fund our 2.5% merit raises, which are gonna keep us out of market problems that we've had to adjust our salaries to market. By keeping that 2.5 merit, it keeps us with most of the markets. We've adopted preventative health screenings. We have tightened our belts. At one point, you know, there's different kinds of money, and while we have good contingency money, we needed to tighten up to 300 to 500,000 on our operational budgets with those ongoing funds. We were able to do that. One of the things that Tina is actually more happy than I am, but we are ending the enterprise leasing program for for the police fleet vehicles. It was a point in time where we just needed vehicles. We needed them now, and they were dying on the way to calls, and so we got those vehicles lined up. But now we're at a point with our revenues and our flexibility that this budget allows us to buy outright 5 Ford F-150 four-wheel drives and turn them into patrol vehicles. So that's real good, right, Dave? Okay, good. It also additionally allows us to purchase 2 Public Works F-350 dump trucks. That's the vehicle of choice, and that's buying them outright. And then 2 smaller Ford Rangers for the meter reader and the what's the other? Blue stake person that don't need a full-size truck, but just need something to get around in. And so we're again, we need to start replenishing the fleets on both of these. We're adding 2 positions, 2 non-sworn scout positions. We're working on a succession planning, and the scout positions will allow us to transition from people who turn 18 to 21. They can get them involved in the police department. So future officers, once they hit 21, we can send them to the academy. And that's again, succession planning is what we're working on. We have funds a new sweeper. We're waiting on the jetter truck we got last year. We're rebuilding the water and wastewater funds, enterprise funds, pretty well. And then again, we have conservative balances. We projected certain amounts of money coming in, but we're holding off on spending that just so we can see if it truly comes in. And then again, able to hold off the WIFA loans, the loans of last resort. 3 things that still need to be achieved. We need to find complete funding for the ladder truck. That is not in this budget. It is a grant funded, and we will find that funding for it. We have 18 months, we need to find that. Funding for the design and construction of the new fire station. And we have multiple options on how we can do that. That'll be something that we will be looking at during this budget year. That money is not budgeted, has not been identified, the mechanism that we're going to do. But that'll be a discussion that we will have after we get the final budget passed. Then we'll come looking to how we can pick the best option to build that in and go forward in the 27 budget. And then the funding of replacement well 4. That's about a 1.2 million, about a year long. Again, we think we're gonna have the money internally, but we bought ourselves enough time with what we call the sacrificial pump that we're getting back in there working. We think we can get 3 years out of that, and that gives us time to find the proper way to finance the water, that well 4. And it will be a complete re-drill. We'll abandon it and replace it with a fresh drill. That's why it's so expensive. So tonight we'll approve the tentative amount. That is it. We can, after this point, we can move money around internally, but the max amount is set, and that'll be what we need to operate legally after July 1. We'll bring back on, as Tina will talk about, July 8th. And then the presentations between now and July 8th, we hope to have additional presentations on content-specific asphalt sidewalks, common lines, fleet, that we can tie into the budget process. And those are my comments, Tina.
Okay.
I turn it over to you.
I have one question for Paul. Paul, and we all know that the priority is the ladder truck and the fire station in our near future. I know that we put $25,000 earnest money for the truck that's being recommended. That's still 18 months out. What's the amount that we need to put down to secure it and secure the price on it?
I don't know that.
Okay.
I don't know the answer. No one, I turn to the audience, they don't know. And somewhere in France is somebody who does. But I don't want to text them because I don't know what time it is over there.
And I just worry about the tariffs that are being imposed on steel and metal and everything else.
Oh, it's gonna be all handled by then, don't worry.
And what the cost will be.
They're meeting, they're having kumbayas, you know, he's going to China, China's coming here. It's gonna be, you know.
It's out there,
Mayor, we got 18 months to figure this out.
but we need to secure it. We don't have it secured
We
yet.
need to secure it, and I don't know, I do not know how much money we need to put down to do that. But as soon as we get some, we will put it down.
Okay.
And Mayor, kudos for you for all of your hard work and networking to try to help get some money. We're making progress, I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So, all right, Tina, thank you. Mayor, thank you.
Mayor Gameros, members of council, thank you again for allowing me to participate in the budget development for your city. This is my third presentation and it's getting easier, hopefully for you as well as for me. I feel much stronger about the relationships that have been developed between all the departments, myself, and it's just, and the new finance department, go team. And it's just been a much easier process this year. And I kept the slides very similar to last year, so hopefully that will continue to help familiarize you with how we're gonna go through this. So again, we talk about the big picture, revenues by fund. We'll go into these more in detail, but the first thing you'll notice is that we've dropped about 13% or 8.8 million from last year's adopted budget to this year's adopted budget. That can be explained, and it will be explained both on the revenue and the expense side the same way, is that we dropped the grant budget from 19 million to 15 million. It's just a little more realistic in terms of the dollars that are out there and what we think we might get. The other 3.5 million is what Linda talked about, that was WIFA loans. So we are not putting them in WIFA funds as a budget. It is still in part of that grant budget as capacity if the decision is made, but it did drop the budget by that 3.5 million. And then the other 2.8 million is a combination drop in HERF, excise tax, and bridge fund, which is the project's getting done. So the fact that Connie's Bridge was done, there was a whole lot of money that was sitting there in the fund balance and that was expended last year, and the projects get completed, as well as the start of the WIFA conservation. Well, that's in water. But at any of the projects that get started, then the fund expenses have come down. So that's about 2.8 million. The general fund revenues, of course, are up 2.7 million, and I'll go over that and when I cover the general fund revenues in detail. Some of that is operating revenue increase, some of that is fund balance increase. So this next slide is essentially the same slide, except on the expenditure side, they all match because our expenditures have to match our revenues. Currently, if you look at the third line down, active adult is the only fund that looks like it's running slightly over budget to the forecast, and it's $2,500. I think that's something that we can fix the next 30 days. I think that administratively can be taken care of. It's just something that it wasn't until the slide was all done that I went, hey, that's more than the adopted budget. We'll have to do something about that. The general fund, of course, is not projected to be over budget as a whole, but some of the departments are over budget, fire and police, and we've talked about that, and that's the same thing in 24. It's what we had the one finding for in the audit, is that within the general fund, we need to get those departmental budgets balanced. And we're gonna be bringing that back to you both for 25 as well as 24 before we get the audit started. So the overall fund is whole, it's done better, it's performed better. We'll talk about that the 25 revenues were better, but by department, it's not exactly balanced, and so we'll have to figure that out. The overall drop in expenditures is for the same reason as the revenues: smaller grant budget, no WIFA loans, and completed projects, so less carry forward. General fund and sewer are the exceptions that went up. You will see again, and I mentioned this last year, that in all the slides, that if you add up all the funds, it adds up to $57,762,961. We take out of that the $309,000, that's the transfers that the general fund makes to library and active adult, and that becomes your adopted expenditure budget, because basically the auditor recognizes that you don't spend it out of the general fund and then spend it out of library. That doesn't count against you twice, so you can take that transfer out. So your adopted expenditure budget is at 57,452. This is your maximum budget, as Paul said. You can reduce it for final, but it doesn't mean you have to spend it, as we all know. To develop the expenditure budget, I met with individual department directors, of course, the city manager, several project managers, to talk about the needs for the coming year. Water and enterprise fund is down about 1.9 million, most of which of that is the beginning of the water conservation grant. So about 1.7 million of that grant was expended in '25. So that accounted for most of the drop in that budget. And just as a reminder, that one is going for the meter audit and the daybreak water lines. The city also expended in the water fund $440,000 of its securing future water was the match. So both of those things dropped that water budget down a little. So getting into specifically the general fund. So we'll talk about the general fund revenues by category. I'll do the property tax on the next slide, but the remaining city taxes are up about 1.1 million, which is about 11% over that adopted '25 budget. And that tells me that our '25 revenue budget was very conservative, which is good. The increases that we were hoping for, but not necessarily planning on, came through. So now we are budgeting about a 2.5% growth over the current forecast. So it's 11% over the adopted budget, but we're only growing at about 2.5% over what is the current forecast for this year. And that's a little more aggressive. Last year, we only increased the sales tax by 1.5% over the forecast, but I think it is in keeping with your growth trends. So it's being a little more optimistic than we were in the '25 budget. But that's also, your budget is growing, your needs are growing, your department staff is growing, your merit raises have to be covered. So, you know, that you can't continue to grow your city and grow your budget without the revenues growing. So licenses and permits are about flat from last year's budget, but it's still an increase from the current forecast. The current forecast is only about 650,000. And again, the development services department is really continuing to improve these revenues. So we were comfortable with making, you know, pretty much the same forecast for that budget. Intergovernmental is an interesting one. State TPT, vehicle license tax, and urban revenue sharing are based on the estimates that we get from the league. And as we've talked about, these went down about 400,000 between '24 and '25, and that had to do with the new flat income tax, I believe, was accounting for that. And so back in '24, when they gave us our budget for this year, they also told us what they thought '26 and '27 and '28 would be. So in reality, what they gave us in March for '26 is better. So it has actually improved. The VLT and the TPT improved a little over what they told us last year that they thought '26 would be. So that's kind of good news. You can even see that the 3.4 million that was adopted this year is forecasted to hit 3.5 by the end of June 30th. So we are doing a little bit better. I think urban revenue sharing is still in one category that's down about 98,000, but that's still better than the loss it was predicted. So it's just not been quite as bad as they had predicted.
Is that doesn't state, that's nothing, is that state shared revenues?
Urban revenue sharing, yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. That's all I had to say about that. Franchise fees are up about $3,000, again, based on the projections for this year. Charges for service are down about 49,000. Again, these have to do a little bit with the grant collections that we have done for police. So while our forecast is kind of up to 950 for this year, I think we were collecting a lot of prior year grants. So that was a little bit of an anomaly this year. So that's why the budget's down just a little bit. That includes our Get 'em grants and victim advocacy services, charges for services for some of that. So the finance department really did an incredible job this year in terms of collecting past revenues, cleaning up, making sure we're getting the grant money that we're supposed to get in for that. Fines and forfeitures, those are up quite a bit, but that is a lot to do with the change in the court process, the fact that you've brought your court processes back in-house, and so the collection on these revenues has been improving. Even just the last 2 months, you can see compared to the beginning of the year. And there's a small amount in there for reimbursement of jail per diems, so those revenues are up a little bit as well. Miscellaneous revenues, that's sort of a little bit of a catch-all, and interest, that's up just about 65,000. And then we have just a very small contribution / donation budget. We don't know of any large donations anticipated, so it's never a problem. If someone gives us more money, we can always accommodate more revenue. There's no cap on that, so. That is, accounts for your 22 million. Oh, and then of course the fund balance carry forward. I'll just touch that real quick. So we've got about 4.3 million is our fund balance carry forward. And some of that that's made up of a lot of things. So going back to our 23 audit just closed. So we still need to get through our 24 audit, our 25 audit. So we want to be very cautious about that. That is where your 3,150,000 comes right off the top of that. And then the balance of that is what's used for one time. And I'll touch when you hear me through the rest of the presentation say, and we use one-time funds for that, and we use one-time support. That's the difference between, say, having a $4 million contingency, then you wouldn't be able to do all the things that I mentioned as being used one-time funds. So the next slide is your general fund property tax and levy. Again, I'd like to go through this for members of the audience or people who don't know that the way Truth in Taxation works is that the levy each year cannot increase, the rate cannot increase. I have to always think about the best way to say that. If I have a $100,000 home and a 10% tax rate, I pay $10,000 in taxes this year. If the value of my house goes up to $110,000, the city cannot say, oh, we kept the rate flat at 10%. We didn't increase your taxes because your property value went up. Your tax would then go up even if the rate was flat. So in order to achieve truth in taxation and say we are not raising your taxes, you must lower your rate. So that is the essence of truth in taxation. So each year, if you are not raising taxes, you need to reduce your rate so that the levy on all the property that was assessed last year has a rate that will equal the same levy amount. That is what you are doing here. Your levy last year was $541,935. That's the second to the last line there on the slide. So if you were going to get that much money from all the same property last year, you need to drop your rate from 1.2221 to 1.1892. And the only growth in your levy then, because your new levy will be $545,264, is on new construction. So the only increase in your levy is on the new tax rate on the new construction.
Go ahead, Fernando.
So we could raise taxes, but we don't, and we don't want to say we raise taxes, so that's why we adjust.
Correct. You've made a commitment not to raise taxes, and so to do that. And yes, at any point in time that you choose to raise your rate or raise your levy, you just have to do some notices and do a truth in taxation notice that says we are actually raising your taxes. So, but the council has made a decision not to do that, and so then we end up. Truly, it is based on the assessed value. So if assessed values stay flat, then your rate would stay flat. But that just doesn't usually happen. All right, this is the fun one. This is going through the general fund expense by department. I'm gonna take a drink. I've had a wonderful cold this week. So the council budget dropped about 31,000 overall. There's a couple reasons for that. It does, the budget does include the full year of salary increases for the mayor and council, but there are some reductions in conference and training and travel. I think there were some decisions not to send as many people to different conferences and to limit the number of conferences that you were attending. We dropped the budget for outside legal counsel because there weren't any expenses this year, and that usually has been absorbed by the administration department. There's a slight reduction in the audit expenses, although we are still budgeting for 2 audits this year, but we dropped that about $5,000. There was a small reduction in contractual services and a larger reduction in community action because I think we had really quite a big budget last year for like the bridge grant openings and some of those things. But you'll see that the 450,000 is still well more than your current forecast of 375,000. So that is the council's budget. The bed tax community groups, according to the policy that you guys adopted a few meetings ago, is maxed at 250,000. So that's what we've put in that budget. Administration has increased about 900,000. That is primarily impacted by the policy that you just adopted, so that we are bringing those one-time revenues, I mean the contingency funds up to 3 million and the other 150,000. So those, last year, if you remember, your contingency was only 2.6 million. So to get, you had to put, and you used 250,000 of it during the year. So you had to put almost 500,000 back in to get to that, and then you had the other 150,000 that you added. If you, I did just say that. And the uses of contingency last year were for those magistrate services, for BESH construction, and for the Banner Care and PHI. So that was the money that needed to be replaced. We also moved the assistant city manager position out of economic development and into administration, as well as some additional funding for half of an administrative assistant for the clerk's office. Last year, half of it was paid for by the pool. Contracted services and equipment purchase budgets were reduced to offset some of these costs, as admin, along with all the other departments, had to make some cuts to meet that 3% cut that we were working on across the board. Fire department is up about 308,000. All of this really can be attributed to the PSPRS rates that increased and their use of overtime. Chief Robinson and I went over overtime very carefully and looked at what is the overtime attributed to the department and what is the overtime attributed to wildland fires. And so I have a better understanding of that. So both of those things are budgeted this year. We also increased the fire contract revenue to cover the fire overland, wildfire overtime. So we are anticipating that the PSPRS rates should decrease in fiscal year 27 because of the payments that we made to PSPRS already this year for the unfunded liability, as well as a payment that will be made by the end of this June. So that should affect our 27 rates, and hopefully we will see those come down again. The police budget, similarly, is up about 925,000. Half of that, right off the top, is due to that outright purchase of 5 new police vehicles, outfitting them, and that's again a use of that one-time fund balance. So we're getting off of the enterprise leases, we're not gonna pay the management fees, we're not gonna pay the interest, we're gonna just own the vehicles outright. They also had an increase of about 138,000 for retirement and overtime. Again, PSPRS rates had gone up this year, but we hope they'll come down in 27. The police also had the conversion of a contracted victim advocate to a full-time position. I know Paul had mentioned that when we covered that earlier, as well as the addition of 2 scout positions. And the dispatch contract, just last month, we found out it increased for both police and fire, so that's been included in the budget, as well as the training costs for new recruits at the academy have also attributed to this growth. And I just view fire and police as both slowly coming into right sizing. I think historically they have just been told, oh, this is your budget, and then they just can't live with it because they can't get their job done with it. And so we are slowly getting to the point where we are really right-sizing, I think, these departments. And they've worked closely with finance to document, to understand, to track different things. So they, as I like to say it, they're really able to tell their story better. And I think it's really improving where, you know, they ask questions of finance, finance asks questions of them, and they're getting on the same page about what the needs are, so.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, and Tina, both fire and police, fire especially, you know, they're always out there looking for grant money and trying to find ways to you know, get more bang for the buck, get money in there. Police does. Fire, they have some of the wildfire stuff and not so much heavy on the grants. But the radio grants have worked on there, but they are like I say, the costs are difficult, as Tina says. You really just can't, you know, slow down service in fire and police. But we're making great strides, and they do a lot to help support their budgets.
And just a question on fire and police, I guess these proposed budget will help them bring them into, or keep them from going over budget, I guess, like we have in the past. I know it's always predicting, overtime is crazy to be able to predict that, so I think that's a big problem, but it's good to be able to increase that, to be able to keep them within the budget.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, like say, Tina is showing that the budgets, the department budgets are a little bit out of whack right now. But because we know that at this point, before the audit, we can go ahead and get those straightened out. Now, the problem with the past audits is we didn't realize until it was too late to make those changes.
The magistrate department is up about $363,000 over its originally adopted budget, but you did do a mid-year transfer of about $175,000, so it's another $180,000 over that, and that's due to the changes in the relationship with Gila County, bringing the courts back in-house. And again, the inmate housing costs are budgeted here as well, and we're hoping to get some reimbursements for that, as I mentioned in the revenues. Public Works increased this year by about $452,000. Again, 30% of that is one-time use for the purchase of 1.5 dump trucks. So one full dump truck is being paid by the general fund. The second dump truck is half general fund, a quarter sewer, a quarter water. An additional $96,000 is for some development at the cemetery. That's one-time funds, but it's actually funds that has been restricted in the fund balance over the years for the cemetery, so we'll be actually kind of freeing that up out of the fund balance. And then the sanitation contract increased about $110,000. There's also some additional funding made available in Public Works for consultants to begin planning for future projects. The museum is down just a small amount because, again, the portion of the construction has already been paid for the BESH renovations, and some of that's been carried forward into next year. Economic development is down. Now, that's down like $605,000, but that's because of the split to create the community development department. So, as well as moving Linda's position over to administration. So it's a little muddled to try and look at it all separately. I believe their combined operational budget increased $20,000 exclusive of the position move. But they also did budget cuts, and then they had the addition of a marketing specialist. So, we do the cuts, we make additions, it's just very fluid. The pool is up by about $95,000 because we now have a full year of operations, and we are starting to understand what it takes to operate a summer season that crosses 2 fiscal years. You'll see when I cover the employee count on the next slide that I am bringing all 35 part-time positions into the full-time equivalency count, because it does represent the work that it takes for Tammy to hire 35 people into the training, and so I think they should be included. Supplies and maintenance are being right-sized, and there's also $20,000 one-time funds for the monument signage for the pool.
Tina, question on, do we know what recovery we get with the charging? I mean, what do we make on the pool?
I have not done the math on that. I would say it's very small. I wouldn't open a pool as a profit center. Excuse me. So community development has its first budget at $508,000, which was carved out of economic development. Fleet is up only about $2,500. I think that's just staff merit increases, but they were very understaffed this year, so you'll see that their forecast is only $103,000. So because I think they had a vacant position almost the entire year. And I do just want to remind you that all these budgets do include the merit increases at about 2.5%, which is almost, I think I figured that out at almost $250,000 just for the general fund. So it's costs to keep up with the market. So the next slide is my least favorite to try and go through. It's the the position count, the full-time equivalencies. So anytime we start a year with a certain number of positions, and then we make changes during the year, and then we have to talk about the changes we're making in the budget. So let me see if I can explain this. Like last year, this doesn't include the 7 members of council, your reserve and volunteer fire, or your 3 volunteer fire pension positions. Since the start of the year, administration added 3, and that is the move of Linda's position from economic development up to administration. And there was just recently, the utility clerk has moved out of water and into administration, as well as an overhire for the utility administrator. And this is to align those positions more with the idea of front desk customer service. So it has less to do with funding and more to do with a reporting structure. And then fire, and then those don't have changes in the new year, so there's no administrative changes in 26. Fire has had no changes in mid-year or in 26. Police had dropped one position mid-year, which was actually an overhire. It was a retirement that had already been double filled, so that was anticipated to go away. And then for the new year, they have those 3 positions we've talked about, the contracted victim advocate and the 2 scout positions. The magistrate office added that 3/4 time prosecutor position mid-year, and they have no changes to that in 26. And Public Works has had no changes between mid-year and 26. The pool, again, we only counted the 2 full-time positions last year, but in reality, there are 35 half-time positions. So we're just gonna get that on the slide and make it make sense for us, because we are paying them, and includes the 4 lead lifeguards. But the pool manager, who is partially paid from pool and partially from economic development, is actually counted in the economic development budget, which is why economic development is not showing a -1 for Linda, because it's a -1 for Linda and a +1 for the pool manager / recreation specialist. The museum and, economic development, again, mid-year lost Linda's position, added the recreation. But in 26, of course, they moved 5 positions out to create economic development, and then they added back 1 media and marketing specialist, so they're a net -4. So, the big story is the net increase is 4 positions for next year, which we've said. 1 victim advocate, 2 police scouts, and a marketing and media specialist. And the next slide is very easy, because the only change at all in HERF, library, water admin, sewer, and active adult was that utility clerk position moving out of water and up to administration. The next 4 slides pretty much have been covered by Linda. So unless we have more specific questions, I'll kind of go through them quickly. This slide is all of your HERF revenues, excise tax, which is half-cent tax, and the bridge fund. The bridge fund balance is less carry forward because Connie's Bridge was finished, and the 3791 is just the Jesse Hayes Sidewalk Project and the Cottonwood Bridge, both on the revenue side and the expense side. So as we spend money, we get reimbursed. No, I'm sorry, those were both prepaid, so that's actually fund balance carry forward. There's no bridge fund revenues, no new revenues, just the expenditure. The HERF revenues have $1 million in operating revenues and $898 in operating expenditures, 131 in contingency, and the 230 in CIP construction. And excise tax has 725 in regular operating revenues, 890,000 in one-time fund balance, and all of that is committed to basically CIP construction. I'm not sure maybe I should have had some of that as the street lighting and street materials. Maybe I should have split that out, but all of it's being expended. The water fund, again, I've said this a couple times, it's down because of the expenditure of grant funds, both as revenue and as expense. So these are reimbursable, the water conservation grant. And I think one of you asked about the federal funds. We have already received reimbursements on the water conservation grant, so we haven't heard any, had any bad news on that regard. We've submitted applications and been reimbursed. So it's down 1.7 in grant expenses. It's up 300,000 in operational revenues because of your new rate increases. It's down 400,000 in fund balance because we spent securing future water as the match for the water conservation grant. And I think Linda has covered the CIP purchases and the construction reserves, which might serve as the match grant for the Army Corps of Engineers, if needed. That's what some of the reserves for are in the water fund. The sewer fund actually has an increase in operation revenues as well as a projected increase in fund balance use. This is the one I'm the most nervous about because, again, the 23 audit came out pretty late in this process, and there's a pretty big discrepancy between what I had as the 23 ending fund balance for this, and that's why we're keeping about 1.6 million just sitting in reserves until we get through another audit or two. Okay, so it's in the budget, it's there. If we get through the audits and we say, oh, this is fine, it's really in there as fund balance, then we can actually put that money to use either for direct projects or for matches or for wells or for whatever those CIP list things are. But we're just gonna be cautious until we're caught up on our audits. Linda covered the highlights of the jetter truck, which is true carry forward. So again, there's carry forward because it was in your fund balance, and there's fund balance because you didn't spend all your operational revenues. There's two ways you have fund balance. And again, there's the partial payment for one dump truck and the additional vehicle. Library fund, this is the first year in a long time that the revenues from Gila County didn't increase 4%. Normally our grant funds from Gila County increase every year, and this year they were flat, so that's just kind of, I don't know if that's a trend. The library does consistently receive a couple of grants, and the director's very good at using those towards programming as well as the Friends of the Library that were mentioned. The reason their budget is down from last year is that patio project that was completed, which Vice Mayor Stapleton was reading the letter about, so that accounts for about 18,000 of the drop. And some of the other drop is that there was a library assistant position that went back to an admin clerk position, so that kind of accounted for a couple of the drops there. Active adult, as I mentioned, is the only budget that I'm currently showing as being over budget by $2,500, so we're gonna get that fixed. I think coming up on the agenda tonight, you still have the Central Area on Aging contract renewal, so we've got that funding as well as the promise from Gila County for an additional $36,300 that they had given us both this year. So the general fund does support active adult to the tune of about $145,000. I think I didn't mention that on the library. So the library, the general fund is supporting about $165,000. So that $165,000 general fund transfer and the $145,000 to active adult is what makes up that $309,000 in fund transfers that I talked about at the beginning. This is my favorite slide, WIFA, no loans. Really like that. I don't like paying interest, not personally, not for my government, not for anybody. So, I did carry forward just a little bit of the 21 funds just in case the projects weren't finished by the end of this year. So that's the only budget we have for WIFA loans for next year. The grant is a simple slide because it's the 15 million. We do this kind of as a big pot of money. And I don't know, Paul, if you want to go over any of these grant highlights, what we kind of speculate might make up that 15 million.
Tina, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. If you look at that, it's not a complete list of all the things that we may be doing. It is some of the things that we know are going to happen. Like we know the 595 is in there. The water infrastructure, we have that money secured. Like say, fire station and ladder truck, we need to make sure that if something really wonderful happens, we have the capacity to accept that funding. And I will say that the fire station, we have a federal design funds that we're trying to get for that. Michelson building's in progress, but then you get down into, it's got some medium and small stuff, but then you get down to miscellaneous PD and tribal 12% grants. There's just a number placed in there. Miscellaneous sidewalk grants, a number of $1 million there. Miscellaneous water and wastewater. Just to build us that capacity, along with at the bottom, the 2 potential WIFA loans that we have. So we've never spent out it. We don't know that all of this is going to hit. Chances are that you know, some of this money will be spent on things that aren't on this list, but it gives you kind of the highlights of what we're thinking about and how we get to that 15 million. The best thing that we can think of is that we cap out and are granted and receive over 15 million in grants. It hasn't happened, but it could.
Is the Gallego water infrastructure, is that secured, that 959,000?
Yeah, that's that money, that is secure.
Okay.
And then this one, I know you can't see it, it's just the Auditor General Form, Schedule A, that you get, that will be printed in the newspaper along with all your other Auditor General Form schedules that has your 57,452,976 on there. So what's next is that starting by Thursday, we'll get the notice to the newspaper for publication next Wednesday on the 18th for 2 consecutive weeks, that this is the tentative budget, and that there's going to be a public hearing on it on the 8th, and there will be a public hearing on your tax levy and your tax rate on the 8th, final budget on the 8th, and then on the 29th, you will actually adopt your tax levy and set the rate. Any questions?
Questions or comments for Tina?
Yeah, thank you, Tina.
That was great.
Fantastic job.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, that Tina's worked so hard. She's one of us now. She's official Globe. Everybody has her cell phone. We have hers number, and she's just there for us when we need it. Adding to her excellent background and experience has just been a blessing for the city. So we do appreciate that. And again, she's got everybody that's been in a meeting with Tina knows that she has probably the driest humor you will ever find.
That's
But
it for me, huh?
being a finance person with humor is an advantage, so.
Any questions or comments or?
So I think we need a roll call on this?
Yeah. Roll call. Just want to make a comment before we do that. I want to thank the finance. I know there's a lot of work being gone through in the budget and everything. And being part of those work groups and just seeing the department heads really working at making this balanced budget. I mean, they really, I know there's a lot of needs and I know there's a lot of wants, but they really prioritize really the needs of the entire city as each department did. And I just want to commend all our staff for their hard work getting this budget ready.
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you. And our department directors are all on the same page. They're all pulling for the same goals of the citizens. We started more involvement. We started early, and it really has been a change in the process, a change for the better. And this group is working hard to make this a budget that is functional, is conservative, has elbow room, and that holds us accountable. It is your job to distribute and say how the money should be spent, and we believe this answers council's wishes.
Do we have a motion to adopt it?
Motion to adopt made.
Second?
We have a motion and a second for adoption of our fiscal year 2025-2026 tentative budget. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Do we want to do a roll call vote? I'm sorry. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll call the roll by district, and I'll begin with Mayor Camaros.
Yes.
District 1,
Aye.
District 2,
Aye.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4,
Aye.
District 5,
Aye.
District 6.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor and Council, the tentative budget approves by unanimous vote. The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you. You good? So now we go to new business. Item A is discussion and consideration to approve contract IGA 2026-0019 with Central Arizona Aging, formerly Pinal Gila County, for senior citizens, allowing the City of Globe Active Adult Center to receive a reimbursement for fiscal year 2025-2026 to provide Meals on Wheels deliveries funding received through Active Adult Center Program Revenue 7335-40235, Congregate Program Income for $29,396. Number 7335-40236, Home Deliver Program Income for $42,302, and number 733540237, transportation program income for $7,000, for a total contract amount of $78,698, and request to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule. And we have Danny?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. As you stated, this item is being brought before you for discussion. This is something that's done every year. We receive from the Active Adult Aging Center to provide the food and Meals on Wheels for the senior citizens of our community. The total of this grant is gonna be the $78,698, divided up between and allocated between the three programs that are provided by the the Active Adult Center, the transportation program, the home delivered program, and the congregant program. We are also hoping to receive the $36,300 that they have promised us verbally. That allows us to continue to provide for the seniors. The request is being made to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion for this item.
Is this a normal amount we get annually from them?
Yes.
That's
this is
about
our-
what we get.
Yeah, it's a routine, it's a collection of funds that we get, and they stay pretty much the same. But it's important, and it's the sharing that we do with our other partners. And we're asking to waive the rule because we'd like to get this taken care of and finalize the budget.
Mayor, if no other questions or comments, a motion to waive prior discussion rule and approve contract IGA 2026-0019 with Central Arizona, allowing for a total amount of $78,698 to receive by the city of Globe.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item 6A. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Danny. Item B is discussion and consideration of resolution 1907, authorizing grant application GS 2557-05069 to the Governor's Office Highway Safety Grant for an anticipated award amount of $7,000, which will be used for additional traffic patrol, and authorizing the city manager and the police chief to sign the grant agreement. Shelley, can you read resolution 1907, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 1907, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Globe, Gila County, Arizona, pertaining to the submission of projects for consideration in Arizona's 2025 Highway Safety Plan, and appointing the city's chief of police as the city's agent to represent the city's interest in processing of related grants. Is council pleased with the reading?
Yes.
Chief. Good evening, council. This is the ongoing relationship that we've had with the Governor's Office of Highway Safety for the last several years. They've been very supportive of our community as a whole. This money is going to be used for specific DUI task force enforcement and for general traffic enforcement on an overtime basis to bring our cops on to, in addition to the on-duty troops, to bring them in to be able to do targeted enforcement within our community. Any questions?
Fernando, go ahead.
So this drone would give us the capability to issue a citation?
That's the next.
That's the
grant.
next one.
This is a $7,000. I'm jumping ahead. I'm excited
Mayor.
about the drone.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
just a comment. I think we all sit at an intersection now and pause a couple seconds before we enter the intersection at a stoplight, because there's traffic whizzing through at the last split second through the yellow. And that's everywhere I go. I see that on US 60. I'm not complaining. We're just being careful. So these grants that come in that help, and I see this all the time, great job. Our law enforcement is stopping traffic, is getting them to think about going so fast through any part of town. And that's what these funds are designed to do, to get our public to think about it and be more careful. There's several in District 5 that I worry about all the time, trucks whizzing through, and I hate to say that. That's part of our economy, but we have to be safe. And if that reminder is out there, please continue. I really appreciate that quite a bit.
Thank you, Councilman. And with the partnership with the GOHS grant program, we've been able to do and attack the issues on multiple fronts. Everything from the signage that we have set up throughout the city to the mobile signage that we're able to deploy. And then in addition to that, it's helped us with training, it's helped us with equipment, and now it's helping us with overtime for enforcement action. So it's been an excellent partnership for us.
Jesse, go ahead.
Just want to thank you for all the hard work you've done, your staff has done, your department has done for going out for these grants.
Thank you, sir.
To offset the cost of what we've been talking about, all of our budgets, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I would make a motion to approve resolution number 1907, allowing for the submission of grant application GS 2557-05069 to the Governor's Office of Highway Safety for an anticipated award amount of $7,000, which will be brought back before the council for acceptance, and authorize the city manager and police chief to sign the grant agreement.
Second.
We have motion and a second to approve of item 6B. Any further discussion? Chief, is there a time limit? I know these resolutions need to be approved before applying, or do you need a waiver, or does it?
I think we're fine coming back in 2
You're
weeks.
okay coming back, okay.
Just a point of order with this item, you're approving the resolution tonight so that the police department can submit.
Can apply, okay,
It will be brought back when the award is given to the city.
okay. So we have a motion and a second to move this item forward to the next council meeting for approval of resolution 1907.
It will be brought back when the grant is
So
awarded.
it would just be a motion to approve the request to go
Okay,
forward.
the resolution, okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Item C is discussion and consideration to approve the submission of grant application number CO 255705070 to Tohono O'odham Nation 12D grant for an anticipated award of $37,650.90 for the purchase of police department drone.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. So we had looked at this last year in our CIP, and due to a change in economics for whatever reason, the prices of these had went up tremendously. In addition to that, one of the challenges that you have with any drone program within government is you have to have a licensed pilot to fly them. We have recently, in the last year, hired one. It's one of our officers that was previously licensed at another agency. And so in sitting down with him, he helped us select the most appropriate drone for our needs here. And that's what we went after. But because of the cost of it, we thought the 12D grant was the most appropriate way to try to fund this particular project. So we're hoping to get awarded this later this year, but we're throwing our hat in the ring to try to get funding for it because it's twice as expensive as we thought.
There's no match on the 12Ds then, huh?
There is not.
Yeah.
This is the full price of the drone.
Ready?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, just briefly, what does a drone program look like in
So there's a number of things that we can use it for, but specifically for us, the search and rescue mission at Round Mountain a couple of years ago, it would have been ideal for. Any of our special events that we're doing, it would be ideal for, to have a pilot over it to see hotspots or issues that we've had in the past. It can film, it can take pictures, and it's that sort of things that we would use it for. Some agencies, and we're gonna look into this, use it for photographing major accident scenes, for mapping and stuff. There's a lot of different things that you can use it for, but we're gonna be targeting the specific special events that we're doing in the beginning. and then hopefully grow it from there.
I can see there's probably a lot of potential for a drone
There are,
nowadays, you
there
know,
are.
with all the technology and, you know, the mapping and
Right.
things like that, so.
Mr. Mayor, during COVID-19, the county's drone used by emergency management was used to observe the traffic that was pulling into high desert. So they could staff the clinical aspects and have enough manpower for the National Guard and observe it as it proceeded throughout the day. They would fly several missions. And so 1 minute you had 20 cars in position to come up and have their vaccination, and in another minute you had 50. So the team was able to adjust accordingly to staff the National Guard techs as they showed up. So it has many uses, and I look forward to that being done here in Globe.
In the short time that I've been here, over the last 7 years, there's been a number of incidents within our greater area, whether it's a tragic drowning from the flash flooding in the Wash to the major flooding that we had on multiple occasions a few years ago, or inspections of the washes from what John and his crew have been cleaning up. It's a lot quicker to fly over it, film it, and then let them evaluate it, and partnering with other agencies. We've been fortunate because of the partnerships that we've created, we've been able to utilize drone capabilities from other departments. We will repay that in kind if called upon, if we're fortunate enough to get the program up and running.
Right.
Good luck with that. I hope you get it.
Any other questions?
Question? Motion?
I have a question. Do you know what the range of this is? How far you'll be able to fly it?
No, and if I was a very good chief, I would have brought the pilot here with me to do it. He was in training, so he was kind of out of pocket. I do not, but if we're fortunate enough to get it, what I will do is I will have the pilot, once we get it, come in and give a demonstration and do a Q&A with council and citizens so they can see it for themselves. This isn't like the backyard drone that you would get like I have at home. This is a little bit more complex. So it's how much it can do, I don't know. I know mine could go to the end of my pasture, then it falls in the pond with the ducks, so.
I have a question, Mayor. Quick question. I see that it allows for a 2-year defect warranty and it allows for 4 replacements with deductibles for the first 2 year. If something was to go wrong, is there some kind of insurance that you can buy for this type of equipment, or would our insurance cover that if we exceeded that for those 2 years? Or would we be at the spot where we'd have to pay for it?
I believe there is, Councilman, what the specifics are for that, I don't know. This will have to be covered within our insurance, because if we put it up in the air, like over the Halloween event and stuff, if something tragic happens to the equipment and it comes down or something like that. So as far as the replacement stuff, outside the warranty, I think there's something else that we can do. I can't speak to that, but I will research it and let Paul know, and then he can respond out.
Thank
Or
you.
Shelley.
Thank you.
Mayor? So I bought a drone for my business because I have to inspect roofs and sometimes they're just not accessible, you know, they're on the side of a hill. And it's amazing how much that can help you because you don't have to get up there and risk somebody falling off. Is there a possibility that you might be able to use it throughout the city, like if coordinate a time where if Public Works needs to take some pictures or something, or?
Yeah, I would like to tell you, yes, we would like to do everything that we can to help, particularly John and his crew, our fire and stuff. When it comes to law enforcement, it becomes specific concerns of our invasion of privacy and violation of Fourth Amendment issues and things like that. So I don't know exactly the answer to that. Our policies and procedures, as provided by our legal advisors, are going to govern that. It is more likely possible to possibly, certain things we can do for John, particularly out in the field, but other things we're somewhat limited to, because it's kind of a big brother thing watching.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure, if there are no other questions or comments, I motion to approve grant application GO 255705070 to the Tohono O'odham Nation 12D grant for an anticipated award of $37,650.90 for the purchase of a drone, which will be brought back to council for approval.
Second?
Motion second for approval, item 6C. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, council.
Action items, item 7A, discussion and consideration to award contract number CS 20250170 to Rodriguez Construction for the sidewalk repair and replacement project for the amount of $37,686. Funds for this project are budgeted in account number 128051290, half-cent excise tax street repair material. Travis.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. We've got a sidewalk project going on, so I know that's. So this will cover about 1,500 square feet, give or take, of sidewalk in two locations. One's off of Fifth Street between US 60 and Maple, and the other one is in front of 143 South Broad Street, which is, I think, the Globe Salon hair place.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So right there. So those are the two locations, and this was a complaint driven from what I understand, so wasn't in need of repair and replacement, so that's what we're doing.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I would like to make a motion that we award contract number CS 2025-0170 to Rodriguez Construction for the sidewalk repair and replacement project for the amount of $37,686. Funds for this project are budgeted in account number 1280-51-290, half-cent excise tax street repair materials.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item 7A. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstaining, motion passed. Item B, consideration award contract number PS 2026-0014 for on-call civil engineering and professional support services with Kimley Horn and Associates Incorporated as needed from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 in an amount not to exceed $165,000 to be funded out of accounts 1061512225 Public Works Consultant and 5080512225 Water Consultants and 5180512225 Wastewater Consultant with possible WIFA reimbursement and grant reimbursement pending legal review and approval. Travis.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is just one of many on-call contracts we're going to bring to you. The reason we're bringing this to you earlier than the other ones is because there's some different language that we're working with Kimley Horn, and we're trying to also get ahead of the beeline design with them. It's a task order that we're going to be eventually doing with them, and so we're just trying to get ahead of the game so they're ready. It's ready to get that task order for them. So we're just looking for this. We went through the RSOQ process in the last few months. They were one of the proposals that did submit for the RSOQ for professional support services, and they did check out, obviously, qualified under the qualifications, and so we're just ready to move forward to get them ready to go for a July 1st start.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and propose consideration to approve item 7B as written, pending legal review and approval.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item 7B. Is there any further discussion?
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, like I say, there's just a couple duplicate language, which one's on top of the other one. The language issue is very simple right now. We should be able to get that straightened out, but this will be very helpful for some timing on some projects to get this passed today. So thank you.
Sounds good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Travis. Item C is consideration to approve fiscal year 22-23 annual financial statements and audit as presented by Colby Meyer in our last meeting. Paul.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, in many years in the past, audits were presented to council, and you heard them and you got the final presentation. We filed them with the appropriate people. Currently now they've changed the law where you actually have to vote to accept these audits. This is a new a new, item put in by the legislature. And so, so this, from now on, we will be having a vote to accept them. Saw the presentation, nothing has changed, we're getting them posted, but we did want to come back and make sure that you had a formal vote to, accept, the audit.
Okay.
So moved. Second.
Motion second for approval of item 7C. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and abstaining, motion passed. Item D is consideration and possible naming of the new Pinal Creek Bridge.
Canal Creek Bridge,
Oh, that's what they, Mr. Mayor, members of council. that
Upper
was the
Pinal,
working Title for the Pinal Creek Bridge, but, I think we had a presentation by one of the council members that had a strong case for, naming the bridge based on some input. At the last time we talked about this, all of council members wanted some time to review the material and check with whatever, whoever they wanted to check with. And so now we brought it up with either direction and or action, as council pleases.
Mr. Mayor, I presented this packet of information that came from some of my constituents in the district, and there's quite a lot of information. It's not like Reese Canyon Bridge hasn't been in existence for years and years and years. And just along, just kind of keeping some of the history intact, Hill Street School Apartments, and then I think the mayor mentioned the stairs over at
Pasquale?
yeah, okay, and just, the folks that are involved with that, some of them are local dignitaries who have lived in this community for a long, long time. And, so I'm just making a proposal that we name it, Reese Canyon Bridge. I do it, unless you wanna make it.
I want to thank Mike for getting this information and for giving us time to review it. There's a lot of good information in there, and I agree with you.
I too, I've spoke with several constituents, same thing with the history of that. And they all asked me too if we would support Reese Canyon Bridge, so I'm definitely in support of that.
And I will tell you, I think I'm the oldest one on council, right?
Who are you looking at?
By a couple days.
Really? I didn't realize it. That's great. It's been called Reese Canyon Bridge, and then Connie's got built and it became Connie's Bridge, so it's been named different names, but like I say, there's a lot of old families from this community that would like to see it renamed Reese Canyon Bridge. So I would make a motion that if there's no further discussion, we name the new bridge Reese Canyon Bridge.
I would definitely like to second that.
We got a motion, a second, for the renaming of the Upper Pinal Creek Bridge to Reese Canyon Bridge. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion passed.
And I'll still get a few calls.
Any late agenda items?
You know who the gals were.
Council, no, we have no late agenda items.
Second call to the public. Do we have any that showed up?
Let me, one more time. Nothing in the mail from, today at all? No one charging up there, anything on the phone?
Nothing.
Okay. Nothing, no second call to public?
Okay, item 10 is scheduling the meetings, and we have some changes. Schedule a special meeting on Tuesday, June 17, 2025 at 6 p.m. and changing Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025 meeting to Tuesday, July 29th at 6 p.m.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, so the reason we were getting out of here at 8:15-ish is because we took it upon ourselves to plan ahead and ask council to hold a second meeting, a third meeting in June. That would be the June 17th meeting. A lot of things that were scheduled for the later half of this meeting, we pushed to that meeting. I won't speculate on how long that meeting will be, but I think it'll be manageable. And so that special would, again, Tuesday, 6 p.m., June 17th. We'll get an agenda out this week, and it would help us get caught up on a lot of, medium level things, stuff that, need to come to council, but do not take a lot of, we don't plan any large presentations or running 16 on-call contracts or anything like that. We'll wait till the 24th for that.
We'll just bump it up a week.
Yeah. Appreciate the, the consideration to do that, because, these long meetings, and I know there's a lot of things going on, I know it puts a lot of burden on staff too, but I think, I speak for myself, but I think all of us that we appreciate that. We don't mind doing a catch-up meeting once in a while.
Right, no, and like I say, it ebbs and flows, it's not an equal force on that, but this would be really helpful, if council can give us support for that, which I'm assuming council's good for the, and does anybody already know that they have a conflict, or does everybody think they're gonna be good?
For the
I'm good.
17th of June.
Next Tuesday.
I'll be in, Seattle.
Okay, and are you okay with missing that special meeting?
Zoom in.
Yeah.
And the second part of
Right
that,
on it, right?
The other one is, there are 5 Tuesdays in July, and so usually we have the second and fourth, then we have a fifth, and so there's a 3-week split between the July and then the first one in August, because of some vacations scheduled by the city clerk and a conference that both happen on the week of the setting up the agenda for the July 22nd meeting. It would be very helpful for us to have a 3-week span between the first and the second meeting in July, so then we would hold our second meeting in July on Tuesday, July 29th, and there'd be a 3-week gap. And I promise I will warn you all that there is no meeting on the 22nd. I'll warn you on the 21st.
and the public too, we need
So
to
we
let
come
them.
the 1st and the 29th, or you want us the 8th and the 29th?
So we will, I mean,
The 8th and the 29th?
yes. So the second, it'd be the second Tuesday,
And the fifth Tuesday.
and the fifth Tuesday
In July, yeah.
in July.
Okay.
We good with that?
Tuesday the 5th, huh?
We will remind everyone.
8th and 29th.
Okay.
And then future agenda items, just a reminder that we will be bringing back, of course, the final adoption of the budget, but also some long, multi-year plans on specific budget topics.
Okay.
Unless you have anything that council would like to see.
We good? We have motion to adjourn?
Motion made, Mayor. Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you for attending.
Thanks.
Guys, thank you. Got a budget.